What's going on, superfans? It is Fitner from Superheroes Ultimate, and I just saw the Batman, so let's break it down. We are doing a 50k subscriber giveaway for the Nano Iron Man Gauntlet, fully loaded with the Infinity Stones and LED lights. Simply hit the subscribe button, comment below, and like this video. Now, warning, there's going to be tons of spoilers in order for me to really embrace and talk about the Batman. Final warning. Quite an incredible thing when you put an awesome story, great writing, amazing cast, and an absolute dope theme song. So I was fortunate enough to see an early viewing of the Batman, and I got a special edition comic book, and very fitting, it is The Batman, The Long Halloween, which is actually one of my favorite Batman animated movies. And yes, there are many of them, but The Long Halloween hits a little bit differently because it is a little bit darker than usual. And yes, most of DC stuff is already dark and gritty, but when it comes to the storyline of The Long Halloween, it was just much darker, and this movie is no different. This brought the darkness, this brought the grittiness. Now, I will admit that when they first casted Robert Pattinson, I was very iffy about this type of casting. But then again, I remembered about all of the nonsense when Michael Keaton was casted as the Batman and how much fans hated it and argued and debated about this is the wrong casting, and yet he is one of the most legendary Batman that has ever existed. And it's been a while since we had a live action Batman since the Christopher Nolan movies, which is the comparison that continuously comes up when discussing this movie. And I'm probably gonna get hit hard in the comments, social media, for saying this, but I really wasn't a hardcore fan of the Christopher Nolan movies. Yes, I am a huge fan of the Heath Ledger Joker, just like the Jack Nicholson Joker, but I was never completely sold Christian Bale's Batman. There's plenty of memes about it. When it comes to Batman, I really love the Arkham Knight Batman for this reason, because it took that tactical advantage while not being so armored up and not being able to move your neck.
I want to be able to turn your head.
Sure made backing out of the driveway easier.
Now, yes, the Christopher Nolan movies did give us a dark edge to the storylines of Batman, and Matt Reeves' Batman Noir style really shows the best parts of all the Batmans that we have seen over the ages. It's almost as if Matt Reeves took all of the best things that we loved from previous iterations of the Batman and put them all into one. And the best way that I could describe it, like I described it in non-spoiler, it's literally like a mashup between The Long Halloween, Arkham Knight, Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, and a Year One Batman. And Year One is actually one of my favorite storylines for Batman because it is so raw. He makes so many mistakes. Like it's almost like he's a rookie at being a superhero. And in this film, he's only been Batman for about 2 years. So we have a young Bruce Wayne still learning along the way. He's making many mistakes. And I really love that about this iteration because he should be making some mistakes as a rookie, as a young superhero, a young vigilante. Not the Peacemaker one. I love that one too though. This is a broken Batman. This one is still angry. This one is still wanting vengeance. That's why he says he is vengeance. And as we know, as comic goers, in the future, he doesn't stand by this. The older, much wiser version of him in the future teaching Damian is justice, not vengeance.
Remember, Robin, justice,
not vengeance.
And we almost see that transition in this movie, like that moment when he was down on the ground because he got shot in the chest by a shotgun and had to take an adrenaline boost to save Catwoman because that is the woman that he loves. And that moment really showed that he really actually loves the Catwoman. He nearly killed this guy by beating him to a pulp, but yet he stopped. Luckily, Jim Gordon was there to prevent him from crossing over into that real unhinged version of Batman. We get to see all of those cool Bat Tech toys, and the feel and the environment of the movie is almost set like in the 70s type style but yet with a spin on it with all of the modern tech of today. There's internet, there is cell phone, there's a freaking contact camera lens, fully loaded. By this time, he's already in the process of becoming the world's greatest detective and doing major detective work, and has already worked out a partnership with Jim Gordon. Hey, Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, but I keep calling him the Commissioner because I can't unsee it. He's going to be the Commissioner eventually, just like in the Christopher Nolan trilogy, where Jim Gordon starts out as a lieutenant and then moves up into being a commissioner. It looks like they're going to do the same thing here with Jeffrey Wright's Jim Gordon, and he's eventually going to be the commissioner. Gordon really trusts the Batman, not even knowing who he is under the mask, as that really good cop. He just cannot be bought. That is Commissioner Gordon, and this was really seen in this movie because corruption is literally everywhere. Like half the freaking department is under the payroll of Carmine Falcone. Falcone? This is another casting that I really wasn't sure. I really didn't see him in such a serious type role, and Carmine is a scary ass dude when you read about him in the comics or you see him in the animated. But this guy is like chilling, he's cool. You would never suspect that he literally strangles people on the side. Like he doesn't even flinch or bat an eye or feel any emotional anything for murdering people. Like he is the true definition of a mobster hitman. And the fact that they use the storyline with the relationship of Carmine and Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne, and how they helped each other out, and how Thomas saved Carmine and did surgery on a dining room table. And although we didn't see it in live action, it's still part of the canon now of this Batman verse. Paul Dano's performance as the Riddler, very intellectual type supervillain, was the perfect choice to put against the Batman, really challenging his detective skills. At every moment that Batman solves a riddle or figured out one of the clues that led into the next step, the Riddler was always one step ahead of him. And you could tell that Batman doesn't have his full mastery of being a detective yet. He made tons of mistakes along the way against one of the most unhinged versions of the Riddler. The Hush version of the Riddler was one of the most deadliest villains early Batman has ever encountered. And let's face it, this unhinged version of the Riddler really actually kind of beat him. He brought Gotham City to its knees. He actually was too late to disarm the 7 vehicles around Gotham City that caused the flooding. Batman was not able to stop this. And Colin Farrell's Penguin is undeniably the best performance in the entire movie, and he wasn't in as much as everyone else, but I feel like every time he was on screen he was just extremely comedic, while at the same time you could see the man's pain and the beginnings of a real supervillain coming out, seeding what's gonna be the Penguin. And I really love the twins, which is a throwback to like Min and Max, which were henchmen for Two-Face, and this has been an ongoing thing forever with supervillains and at least 2 similarly looking, possibly always twins, in DC Comics. You can see this all the way back in the comics. You can see this back in even Adam West 1966 Batman series, where you could see 2 henchmen with Catwoman or with Mr. Freeze, or of course the Penguin, who were funny enough called Hawkeye and Dove. And you could really tell that Matt Reeves is definitely a fan of Batman and Batman lore, and has studied many types of iterations of the Batman and took all of the best things and put it into one. This is why I really believe this is the best live action interpretation of the Batman. Robert Pattinson did very well as Bruce Wayne in showing us a broken Bruce Wayne. And I know some people on the internet were like, it's a broken Bruce Wayne, blah, blah, blah. Yes, he is actually broken. That is the whole point of the Batman, and showing us his vulnerability, how much pain he's actually holding. And when he puts on the cowl, when he is in the Batman, he is literally unlocking his true self. Bruce Wayne is not who he is. He is the Batman. After all, because of all the PTSD of losing his parents and being murdered right in front of him as a child, left him with a lot of emotional scarring, a lot of PTSD, and his way of actually healing that, or at least shielding all of those broken emotions inside of him, is by being the Batman. The Batman is his true self. Bruce Wayne always brooding around, always gloomy. Robert Pattinson, everyone owes you a damn apology. Even myself, because I was not completely sold when you were first fully casted as the Batman, but damn, you proved everyone wrong. And it happens time and time again. Yes, people were complaining about Heath Ledger when he got casted as the Joker. He got a damn Oscar. People were complaining about Michael Keaton when he became Batman. And he is one of the most iconic and remembered Batman of all the Batman. And then of course we get the very complicated relationship between Catwoman and Batman. The way it was shown on scene when they first meet and they end up fighting each other, it's almost like they click because they both understand each other, which is one of the best examples as to opposites attract, because she is a criminal, she's a thief, she cons people, she's a burglar, and Batman is all about justice. It's a match made in heaven. And of course it never fully works, and everybody that has seen or read The Long Halloween or has been reading the Batman when Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle were supposed to get married and why it didn't work was beautifully done in this movie. And Zoe Kravitz's performance as Catwoman was excellent casting. I mean, seriously, with her with the short hair, it's almost like she was ripped out of the freaking comic books. And one of the things that really stood out to me about her performance was that I didn't see Catwoman first. I saw Selina Kyle.
I have a thing about strays.
Although I'm still not completely sold on that cowl, which is basically just a giant beanie with a hole in it. I get it, they're trying to go with the realism, but let's face it, Batman has a full-blown cowl, so just give Catwoman her cowl. Because the rest of the outfit and her claws, absolute beautiful detail. And then of course we can't forget about Alfred Pennyworth, which is Andy Serkis, which just finished directing Venom 2. This man's versatility is just insane. He's a director, he's a writer, freaking Gollum. This man can do it all. The relationship between Bruce Wayne and Alfred Pennyworth basically did become Bruce Wayne's father at a very young age. And that emotional scene at the hospital when Bruce is literally almost like a teenager or a rebelling teenager that's going through a phase, and their parents are basically just sitting back and just letting it happen and just supporting him in any way. Like that moment when Batman is trying to decipher this entire code that the Riddler has done, and then Alfred is telling him to just go take a shower, go get some rest, go take care of this, and the rebellious teen that's just like, no, I don't want to do it, you're not my father. And then all of a sudden you see Alfred just jumping in and helping him out with the code. I mean, that is just such a cool thing to see, that Alfred really tried his absolute best because he wants to help out his freaking basically adopted son. When Bruce Wayne lost his parents, he had nobody else. He only had Alfred, and I love the fact that he actually said, I can teach you how to fight, I can teach you how to do all these different things, but I just didn't know how to be a father. Basically, both of them were thrown into the mix, and even though he's been Batman for about 2 years, he's still learning along the way to be the Batman that we all know. I don't care if you're a Batman hater and be like, oh, it's just a dude in a cape and a cowl. This is one of the main reasons why I'm a huge Batman fan and why I love him, is because this man had to train his absolute ass off. He doesn't have superpowers. He doesn't have laser vision. He can't fly. He doesn't have super strength. He doesn't have super speed. He's not half god or demigod like Wonder Woman. And yet he is considered an equal to any Justice Leaguer, to any of the other heroes, and going up against villains that are ridiculously OP because of his intellect and because he had to train his ass off for combat and to be smarter than anybody else.
You're not just some guy in a bat costume, are you? Are you freaking kidding me?
What's this do?
Huh?
No buttons. I assume it works off concentration.
And that Batmobile. Oh, the Batmobile. It's right there in New York. I really wish I could go to the red carpet and actually see it in person. When you saw it on screen, on the IMAX, by the way, I really recommend that you see this in the IMAX and really get the full-blown experience. This Batmobile is so dope. All the different types of iterations of the Batmobile, and this one felt more like a Batmobile, like even to the edges on the back, or even the Bat Bike, because if you really look at the Bat Bike, it actually has the little spikes on the side. That theme that we all see in the comics, you see the Batmobile, the Bat Bike, and it always has this type of little tiny theme to the bike. It's not just a regular bike. You see that this is the Bat Bike. This is the Batmobile. And let's all face it, we can all admit that Peacemaker is 100% right about Batman, because he doesn't kill the villains and then he locks them up only for them to escape and kill more people. And the end credit scene couldn't be a bigger example of what Peacemaker was talking about, because we have the Riddler right next to the jail cell of none other, the arch nemesis of the Batman, the freaking Joker. So we basically have at Arkham the Joker and the Riddler working towards their escape, clearly, and quite possibly a future team up. And I do have mixed feelings about it, because there's such a good rogues gallery that they can utilize here. And one of the things that's been rumored is that Matt Reeves is going to use Mr. Freeze as one of the next villains, which I'm actually really down for after seeing what he has done with these characters as the Riddler, the Penguin, Catwoman, which is still technically a villain that's kind of an anti-hero. I want to see more rogues gallery, and I'm super stoked that they already have a spin-off series that's going to happen with the Penguin because of this film, which is one of 3 spin-offs on HBO Max because of this film. One of them is the Penguin, and one that Matt Reeves just recently announced is that is completely focused on Arkham, which is perfect because we get to see a lot of the other villains that Batman has already taken out, which could introduce more of the rogues gallery that I really want to see, and I'm pretty sure plenty of other fans want to see more of the rogues gallery. And I really hope that they either go into a solo film or even an entire series for Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, Selina Kyle Catwoman. After seeing Suicide Squad and how they did a spin-off for Peacemaker, there is an ongoing trend here that DC can really actually evolve into an actual DC. This is a DC universe now. Matt Reeves has also confirmed that he is completely going into what's called a Batman verse. That means that there's not going to be a Superman, there's not going to be a Wonder Woman or an Aquaman or a Flash or anything else involved in Batman. And I really love this idea, and they should definitely continue going. They already have 3 spin-offs just because of Batman that they can actually utilize, make shows, and go into the films. Now they're getting the right formula for this. Let's face it, out of the Batman movies that we have seen, we've never actually seen full-fledged Batman-verse type stuff. What about Nightwing? What about Robin? What about all the other Robins? What about Batgirl? What about Azrael? What about the Court of Owls? We could even expand on Lucius Fox's kids later on. What about Batwing? There is so much rich storylines with just Batman that they can utilize for shows and movies. And I almost must say that I really love the fact that they just threw in the Batman without going into so much backstory about his parents. There's no need for it. Just like the mistakes that they made in Spider-Man with giving us Uncle Ben dying every single goddamn time. We get it. His uncle died. We get it. Bruce Wayne's parents died when he was a kid. We did not need to see it anymore. In this movie, they did not have to show it. They just showed the after effects and how psychologically broken Bruce Wayne really is without needing to go back to it. It is something that should be always mentioned or revisited because it is a part of who Batman is. There you have it. The Batman, the best freaking Batman ever seen, ever done, period. Keep a lookout for the next video where we're going to discuss it with the crew, and we're going to break down some of the best scenes, some of the worst scenes, and some things that we probably just actually wanted to fix, which is very little to fix. T-shirts, tank tops, mugs, totes, stickers, face masks, and so much more. So if you want to check out some of our latest official merch, take a look right below the video. We are doing a 50K subscriber giveaway for the Nano Iron Man Gauntlet, fully loaded with the Infinity Stones and LED lights. Simply hit the subscribe button, comment below, and like this video. Until next, superfans, this Fit Nerd, over and out.